ahead and all right, everybody. Hello and welcome. I think you can see my screen. I'm here to welcome you to How to Land a Job in 2025. Today is December 12th. We have 19 days until the new year. And so, in the spirit of the new year, I always believe in getting ourselves started early on these things because it is so important to look ahead and understand the downstream effects and downstream impacts of everything out there. My name is Albert. I'm the founder of Albert's List. I will be your host today, and I will also have many resources and gifts to share with you today that you can use to go to the next aspect of your career. A little bit about me. I'm a San Francisco Bay Area born and raised job search entrepreneur, product marketer by day, and job search professional by night. I'm the founder of Albert's List on Facebook, which is a community of 50,400 members, connecting job seekers, hiring managers, networking opportunities, and other jobs that may be of interest. Please join the Facebook group here and we'll let you in. It's mainly Bay Area, but if you're looking to network with a wide swath of serious people, then we welcome you. And yes, for those of you who are in Australia or dialing in from Asia or anywhere on the other side of the Pacific Rim, happy Friday the 13th. I hope you have lots of luck in your day today. All right, so the agenda that I want to really provide here is fivefold. I want to start by talking about the state of the job market and where things stand today. As we know, here on Thursday, December 12th, there's been some new data that's been coming out recently. I want to talk through some of that and what some of that means and what some of that doesn't quite mean. Then I want to go into predictions and expectations for 2025. And for those of you who are from Canada or dialing in from Europe or dialing in from Australia, I do want to apologize in advance that some of this does have a United States centric focus. But the other aspect of it is that everything that happens in the United States seems to impact everyone else around the world. So I want you to take that into consideration as you think through what this may mean for your job search and ask questions and bring your insights because I don't want this to just be me talking at you. I also want to hear your opinions as well. Then I want to talk about what changes about the job market and considerations that you should make, and then some actions that you should take, and then some Q&A from the audience as we go through. So please use also the Q&A function so I can find your questions somewhere along the lines here and be able to give you the answers that you may be seeking. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A function here. And if any of you do have any questions, I will try to answer them as best that I can. All right. So our goals for today's webinar is to number one, provide a 50,000-foot view of the job market and then zoom in. There's a lot going on in the job market today, and not a lot of it is very great, but it's important to understand where we stand now and why we stand in the way that we do, so that if you feel like your job search sucks or is not at the way that you like it to be, that at least you can take a look at yourself in the mirror and know, you know what? I understand why it's that bad, and I'm going to do what I can to make it better. Number two, I want to leave you empowered to embark on your job search, whichever way you take from today's conversation. If you're someone who feels like your job search has just begun and you're looking for that inspiration and motivation, I hope I give you some of that clarity. If you're somebody who has been many of the job seekers that have been out for multiple months, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months at a time, I also want you to walk out of here knowing that, you do have something on your side, and I want you to take advantage of that. And then I want to give you some of the resources that you can move forward with hope. Some of these things are paid, some of these things are free. You are supporting a small business today, and I hope I don't spend too much time promoting it, but I still want to make it available to you nonetheless. So with that said, I want to talk a little bit about the state of the job market and really tell you where it is that we're coming from this level of value so that we understand where we are today as it relates to the state of the economy. We want to really be at that point where we're talking about the state of this market and really be seeing where everything is from that 50,000-foot view so we can best understand why things are the way they are, and then from there be able to move forward and understand whether things are going to improve or not. And so this is a chart that I've been posting on every one of these presentations that I've done over the last couple of months. And I think it's important for all of us to look at where we've come from and where we're going. This is everything since Q1 of 2020 when the pandemic first began, right? We saw a lot of layoffs in early Q2 because a lot of companies were letting people go. And then there was that lull until the middle of Q4 2022, Q1 2023, where companies got layoff happy. And they've been, in some sense, layoff happy ever since, culminating here in Q4 of 2024 with the lowest tech layoffs that we've had since the beginning. Of course, this is not just tech layoffs, but if you also think about it, and it's not reflected fully in this chart, there are also layoffs elsewhere too. You're looking at banks now, you're looking at car companies, you're looking at transportation. All of these places are starting to lay off, and it's starting to seem like there is this downstream effect that is not so great right now because of all sorts of various things from high interest rates to geopolitical uncertainty to a lot of things in between that are also specific and nuanced to each and every company. And so this is the overall state of the tech market, but also know that there is also some gradual softening across many different markets as well. Specifically to the United States, for those of us who are here on the States, our US unemployment rate since January 2021 has fallen from somewhere in the mid sixes to the 4.2% range as of November. It ticked up slightly and has been ticking up a little bit slightly since the middle of 2023 when unemployment dipped all the way down to 3.5%, and it's come all the way up. And this is considered fairly healthy, and it may be reflective of what you may be for those of us who are not in the United States. But at 4.2%, it is trending upwards, but not completely going upwards yet, suggesting that we may be somewhere in the range of a soft landing. Although, given where everything is and where everything could be going here in the coming new year, a soft landing may not necessarily be on track, but be somewhere else. The biggest tech layoffs since COVID-19 are also listed here. So, and some of these are very, very recent. If you go to the very right-hand column, you'll see that some of these here happened earlier this year. Intel cut 15,000 people back in August, while Tesla cut 14,000 people back in April. And some of these other layoffs, such as SAP with 8,000, and then some of these from earlier before, with Meta coming up here twice, along with Amazon cutting 21,000 and 19,000 respectively. That doesn't mean that some of these other companies are laying off as well. It can be quite daunting when you look down through the entire list because it's everyone from Fortune 500 multinationals all the way down into smaller startups and so forth. For example, today we're hearing that that Cruise, which is one of the self-driving autonomous startups, may be on the verge of shutdown due to everything from regulatory compliance misses all the way down to not taking stock of who they may have hurt when their cars have been veering down around the road. Matt, you make a great point. I wonder how potential tariffs will affect the job market. We're going to actually talk about that in one of our 9 predictions that we're going to have here in the next couple of slides. And so I want you to stay tuned for that. As of November, right, we are also seeing that jobs are still being added in some places. Of course, you know, the areas that continue to be doing really well include healthcare and social assistance, leisure, hospitality, government, professional business services. But if you're one of those people that works in information, you're somebody who's a software engineer, a marketing manager, a data analyst, you are seeing that big fat zero, and that is pretty bad. And even for retail losing 28,000 jobs is not great either because we are on the cusp of the holiday season when a lot of retailers usually hire more people. Yeah. And so Jill says Autodesk is never on the list because they don't do huge layoffs, more that they let people go every year just as they readjust their business. And Calendly just had layoffs yesterday as well, I guess. Yeah, so some of these companies also try to get away with layoffs by letting people go silently and softly. I think Oracle is known for this, a couple of other companies. And so they do a really fantastic job of trying to keep things under the radar so they don't necessarily create a lot of news. Of course, depending on what state you are in, the WARN Act, the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act, requires that if a company lays off a certain number of people, that they are to notify the state, and the state is to put out a statement that the media can then use. And so that sometimes happens with some of these larger companies, while smaller companies don't make that known whatsoever. The other thing that we all also want to know, and these are the next two slides, is that technology jobs are leaving California. This whole growth that we're looking at, we're basically back to somewhere between 2012 and 2015. A lot of tech jobs have left California because it's expensive to live here. We also have a lot of expensive labor, and a lot of those jobs are also moving away into other cheaper locales, such as your Austin, Texas of the world, Phoenix, Seattle, and so forth, where there may be more housing or where there's just friendlier tax advantages to those who decide to have their companies there. Some of them are moving to Canada as well, and some of them are moving to Mexico. As for those who are here in the Bay Area and interested in learning more about the Bay Area has started losing information sector jobs since May of 2022. And so this has become a sort of a lamentation for those of us who live in the Bay Area because even though traffic is still kind of dreadful, a lot of people are still somewhat working or trying to figure out how to work. A lot of people are also struggling to find work as well, with San Francisco seeing this biggest drop off from 2023 and on. And that's where you hear all this news about the doom loop with everything going the way that it does. And so that's something to just keep aware of, especially if you're in the Bay Area. If your job market, or if your job search seems like and feels like it stinks over here, there's very much a reason why to it, because a lot of jobs have left and so forth. But, things may be changing and things may be coming on the way, but also a lot of shift in the market as well is going to be caused by this one guy. So for those of you who may have had your head underneath a rock over the last month or may have forgotten, incoming President Trump was reelected in November of this last month by a resounding margin where he won all seven swing states that were supposed to be contested. And, I try not to get political on these webinars, and I'm not going to really try and get political here. But he's, with his business policies from the last administration that he had from 2016 to 2020, and also from a lot of the tax cuts that he did, plus the new people that have decided to loop in with him this time around, we're probably going to see some changes that come around. So now with this election over, we may also want to consider that because of the uncertainty that was around the election and a lot of companies pulling back from hiring and pulling back from investment, they now have sort of an idea or a roadmap or a blueprint as to what they're going to do next. In line with this as well, in terms of where we're going next, is the Consumer Price Index as of last month. So yesterday we saw that the inflation rate ticked up to 2.7%, and inflation has been on a steady drop since its peak here in the United States at 9.1% back in July of 2022. Inflation, as you know, is very much tied in with interest rates and then also tied in with employment. For those of you who may be new to all of this, one of the things to consider is that inflation is basically the cost of or the rising cost of goods as they go through the economy. As we know that over the last couple of years, the cost of automobiles has gone up. The cost of your grocery bill has gone up. And the way that the Federal Reserve usually combats this is they raise interest rates high to make money more expensive. And by making more money more expensive, the hope is that you, as the consumer, ends up spending a lot less on things and you end up lowering the prices of goods on the aggregate, which is the entire country. Unfortunately, what also comes with that is that as a job market, what we also end up seeing is we also see that companies pull back from investing in employees and investing in projects because it means that it costs more money to make more money. And when it costs more money to make more money, companies end up cutting workers. And so companies that you've seen like Google and Amazon have cut projects like Amazon Retail or Google Home or Google Voice, mostly because they are at a point where they realize that revenue is years away. And in order to make um, In order to make that money back, it's going to take them a lot longer and it's going to be a lot more expensive. And so having a skeleton crew instead of a larger crew is going to be more prudent. And these companies end up working on what they used to work on, which tends to be their bread and butter. So for Google, that would be something like search or business applications. For Amazon, that would be e-commerce and some of their Amazon Web Services infrastructure cloud. And so one of the first things that you're going to hear today is that when you're looking for jobs in the new year, even though we're in the midst of this struggle, it is important for you to look for jobs where you're going to be in a place in an area of growth or in an area of core importance for these companies. If you are not doing things in those areas, then you probably should look for a new job because it's not necessarily going to work for you on those levels. Zachary asks, what change do you see coming in the tech sector during the next Trump 4 years? We have a slide for that, and that'll be upcoming here in a couple of slides. But think about AI, think about cryptocurrency, and then we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into that. Interest rates is the next slide here. So as you know, we raised interest rates in 2022 very slowly from the 0.25% that it was for a long, long time up to 4.5, up to actually 5.25%. And now that's been cut down to 4.75. And with the next cut, we're likely going to be at 4.5. A lower interest rate, as all of you know, as you just heard me say, is enticing for investors as well as for companies because it wants to make them higher. It wants to make them invest in goods and services and in the market, and in turn, that will hopefully lead to hiring down the line. Alex says, I just want to say that the rise and unemployment rate and the prices are directly affected because of what's going around the world. Wars, poverty, immigration, saving refugees. Yes, that's also very true. Because we do live in a global economy, everything is inextricably connected. And we do need to be aware that as things are inextricably connected, a little bit of a change in one thing was going to cause a ripple effect that has a downstream impact towards everything. And if you take nothing else away from this webinar today, I want you to use the word downstream impact in your vocabulary because everything that happens has an impact down the line, whether it's unemployment, higher prices, higher interest rates, greater global conflict, or something in between. And so that's why it's so important for any single company or any single president or leader when they are in office, or any single Congress or representative, that when they are in there and thinking of policy, that whatever they're going to do is going to have long-term, long-standing effects that are not just going to go for months, but that are going to go for years. Before we end this section, the other thing that we want to think about, and I've had this slide here now for a couple presentations, is that AI continues to be a big area as well for those who are looking to seek for growth and also for businesses that are looking to make money. AI, we are now on 2 years in of ChatGPT taking the world by storm and introducing us all to the field of generative AI, which is using artificial intelligence to generate new things such as copy and blog posts, graphics, videos, and so forth, as well as create cottage businesses. And so AI has many impacts depending on the industry that you are. Some industries are going to be going away here in the next couple of years, while others will use AI and become even stronger along the way. Unfortunately, some of the jobs that are being taken over by AI are not necessarily the ones we want to be taken, while the ones that aren't going to be taken tend to generally be the ones that require a lot of human interaction and also require interaction with things that can't quite be automated yet, such as the pipes in your home or the electrical wires that need to be fixed. And so this is going to be a very long-standing debate for where things go. And of course, layoffs just keep happening. Since we've been starting and tracking a lot of this in the beginning of the year and the beginning of really the last couple of years, layoffs seem to happen every single day. I post these screenshots nearly every single time, and it's everyone from Boeing these days to Intel to AWS to Stellantis and so forth. And it's not just tech these days, but it's also people who are beyond tech. And it's you just keep wondering when it's going to stop, and you're hoping that the lowering of interest rates will come soon. But it'll be interesting to see where that all goes as we see it. So, when I did this webinar back in, I think, October, I said in terms of forward forecasts, I wrote that it was going to warm up by spring. That incorporated a Kamala Harris presidency because she would probably likely continue some of the same business aspects of the Biden administration while while keeping her hands off of the Federal Reserve, with rates continuing to gradually fall and we seeing a soft landing sometime in the middle of next year. With the election of Trump, it becomes a "we'll see" sort of designation because it's difficult to understand what it is that he might actually do versus what he has been promising on the campaign trail. Um, and so I offer you these several bullets that's going to be interesting, and then really these predictions for 2025 that are going to dive deeper into this. Number one is that continued interest rate cuts will make their way through the market. Where our rates are today at 4.5%, they're going to be at 4.25 next week on December 18th when the Federal Reserve lowers them. And it's going to take a little bit while for these rate cuts to make their way through the market because that's always being the case in that money will become just a little bit cheaper, and then they're going to witness how the market reacts and then probably come back in February to see if they want to lower rates some more. President Trump is going to bring many new opportunities, and we're going to cover some of these in the following slides. Whereas a Harris administration would have brought business as usual, a Trump administration kind of brings in some new wrinkles that we haven't seen in a couple years that are going to be very interesting, compelling, and also strategic for all of you to think about as we move forward. Number three is that AI is still hot, and AI is going to be a centerpiece of what is that's going to come next. And you're going to see that in about 3 slides or so. And number four is that the information session continues. The unfortunate piece of this is that in every single jobs report that we've seen here in the United States on the Bureau of Labor Statistics is that information jobs remain at zero or negative every single month. And that's many of you. And unfortunately, it continues. And if you're struggling, then that's something that's totally okay to understand. Kenneth asked, I may have missed it, but is there a net job loss that considers hiring and layoffs? Um, so I would say that when you look at the job numbers every single month, you see basically what the net is of who got hired and who got laid off, and the difference is whether jobs were added or removed here. Yeah, not me over here whose health are only mental skills. Do you know of any boot camps or places to get practical experience with AI? So that's also an opportunity piece, Rosie, that I can offer you at a future point here. And I'm going to go ahead and show you this way later on, and also keep following us on Eventbrite because we do have some more events coming up. So with this in mind, if your job search has been a struggle, it's not you, but there are definitely ways around it. And so we're going to talk a little bit about this for predictions in 2025. And then we're going to hop into just sort of a primer and a reminder of what it means to job search and what you have to consider along the way as you do your job searching. Aline, thank you so much for sharing that as well, that cybersecurity doesn't seem to be insulated. That's really huge too. And so that's going to be a really interesting thing to observe as we move forward in the months ahead. Thank you so much for sharing that. So the high level of this when it comes to predictions for 2025 are the following points. Is that political downwinds do matter here, but I'm going to do my best not to get political. Albert's List is a nonpartisan organization, and we do not make any political endorsements outside of just encouraging to go out and vote. And so we know that elections do have consequences, and what happens in these consequences tends to affect people's pocketbooks in one way or another. Change takes a while to happen. And so while 2025 is here very soon, and the new president of the United States will be here soon, it will show up in the terms, change will show up when you least expect it. And while some things will remain the same, the fundamentals will be also remaining the same as well, because some of the things that make part of your job search important will be retained. Much of these trends are also US based, but may apply in some cases internationally. So for our Canadian, European, Australian, New Zealand, and Asian friends, I want to let you know that, some of these things, especially if you work for a United States-based company, may actually end up impacting you, or they may take a little bit of a while to impact you. So, um, take it with a grain of salt, or take it fully and see what you can do with it. The first prediction I have is that the return of tech begins. One of the things that, I've been looking at over the last couple of bits is that tech has been on a downturn for a while. And for those of you who have followed Albert's list, you no doubt know that I've been doing webinars on whether it's time to quit tech and look at other careers. And the answer to this question of whether it's time to quit tech or not has actually become more of less of a question and more of an either or kind of response. In the sense that we do have an administration that's coming in that is very, very friendly to the tech industry. So who you see here on screen is none other than David Sachs. They call him the Rain Man over on the All In podcast, and he is a venture capitalist. He is a startup founder, and he is the new crypto and AI czar for the Trump administration. If you've listened to the All In podcast over the last couple of months to years, you have no doubt heard uh, David Sachs' voice as the most political voice on that podcast and his unwavering support for Donald Trump, all the way up to hosting a fundraiser for him this last summer in the middle of the campaign. And so, what does David Sachs believe? David Sachs believes that there is too much regulation and that there needs to be more mergers and acquisitions in technology, and that as probably AI and cryptos are, he's probably going to do what he can to ensure that companies and innovation within that field are accelerated as much as possible. So his pro-tech views signal some kind of return to prominence for the industry, but I also say it with a huge caveat because after all, what is probably good for David is probably going to be interesting for the rest of us. He wants to see his investments see returns. He wants to see technology boom so he can invest in more and get more return and make more money and return to Silicon Valley as an even bigger billionaire or millionaire than he was before. So when it comes to this particular prediction, the return of tech will begin. It may take a while, and it's also important that you look at all of this with a grain of salt because it may not necessarily trickle down knowing the impact and the effect of what AI has on the rest of us. And this leads us to the second prediction, which is that big business and money are back. So a lot of us were talking about here in the comments earlier about how to pick an industry if you're looking for something to get to in 2025. It should be without anybody's doubt that given the current cryptocurrency bull run, that some industries that are going to flourish for a little while here, given the Securities and Exchange Commission pick, given the rise of Bitcoin above $100,000 a coin, that things like crypto, AI are going to really, really flourish a ton. Because this new administration is going to be friendly and create policies that benefit people in these areas. You're also going to see the return of big business in areas that were friendly to the Trump administration the first time around. And so this includes things like oil and gas. It may include things like the financial services industry, especially if we see the extension as well as the increase in the extension as well as more tax cuts for those at the top who will hopefully invest in us downstream. On the other hand, you're also going to see a lot of industries that struggle in the next couple of years because they simply don't have the same level of interest that are going to be placed into the administration. So one of these is green technology and electric vehicles, right? So it's interesting that Musk got involved as the founder of as not the founder, but the CEO of Tesla, knowing that it's likely that electric vehicle credits are going to go away, and that entire industry is going to have a struggle moment. It should also be considered that green technology may take a back seat, given where we may go with the Department of or with the Environmental Protection Agency and so forth. They may all take a back seat. So just some things to consider. Other things to consider that may take a backseat might be nonprofits. Some certain nonprofits, given who the Trump administration may impact the most, may get a lot of money, while others may see their funds dry up or may see more accountability, such as homelessness. Let's see, what else? So, if you choose wisely within the industries, it's going to be the most important thing that you can do. And if you choose to return to tech, also take that all with a grain of salt. And that leads me to the third point, which is something that you should definitely expect, which is the unleashing of AI begins. So, we mentioned David Sachs 2 slides ago. And here we introduce you to Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz, who are founder of Horowitz or A16Z, which is the big venture capital firm here in Silicon Valley that has invested in a lot of known brands and names that we've all come to know and love over the years. They were big Trump supporters, and they were big Trump supporters for the very reason that they wanted to see a lot of their investments come to fruition, in my opinion, at least. And really, I mean, if you were them, you would probably feel like that opinion was agreed upon. And so, in short, the Silicon Valleying of the Trump administration is going to mean fewer AI regulations that were introduced and posited during the Biden administration, which means that you're going to see a lot more AI solutions out there, a lot of things in the wild, and a lot of things potentially being harmful that get ignored in the name of profit. And so being knowledgeable about AI is going to keep you ahead of the curve, whether it's learning how to prompt on ChatGPT, building websites on Replit, like some of you discovered last night, as well as being able to be well versed in AI so that you know exactly what it is that you are talking about. Going along with the same themes, I know one of you here was talking about what it meant for globalization. I think there was a comment here about potential tariffs affecting the job market. Um, Prediction number 4 is that localism will reign supreme. So tariffs and populist ideas here in the United States will mean a greater focus on the USA versus the foreign market. So if you're anything in physical goods, import, export, manufacturing, it's going to be an interesting time because, especially if you get goods from abroad, those goods are about to get a lot more expensive because of the trade wars that are returning. E-commerce with a focus on Asia, Mexico, etc., are going to struggle if tariffs are not solved immediately and we do not find resolution. So if you're somebody who works for an e-commerce outfit, or if you're somebody who does Amazon FBA or Amazon FBM, or ends up selling a lot of things on eBay abroad, it may get very tough for you because of the additional costs that are going to eat into the margins of what are already very thin margins within your business. The fifth prediction I have is also very much along what the Trump administration may or may not do, which is the state government jobs are going to become incredibly competitive. If you've been following the state of the transition from the Biden to Trump administration, you know that President Trump has given Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy a mandate to cut government costs through the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, with a goal to have a plan of what exactly we're going to cut by July 4th, 2026. And so if you're somebody who enjoys or knows that these things in government are important to have, or believes in the promise of things like the Department of Education or NPR or any of those things, one thing that you can sort of rest assured in is that this is ceremonial in nature, because ultimately, when it comes to who holds the purse strings, it is the House of Representatives. So once Musk and Ramaswamy make their recommendations, I'm presuming that the House of Representatives will then move to pass bills to cut these things or something else, and then we'll go from there. It's tough to say. President Trump ran on a semblance of a plan, and so we will see what that really all means at the end of the day. But what that means at a job level, at least, is that I likely see that there's going to be a lot of unfilled jobs in the federal government, especially here in the United States, since this is one of those US based trends. And you're going to see a lot of, I would say, inefficiency increase because there's no one to do that type of work. But you're also going to see a lot of people go to state government jobs because those jobs are handled by state level executives instead of national level executives. And so if you're somebody who's thinking about applying to a job in your particular state today, especially say in the state of California or states that voted Democratic, those jobs may very well become super competitive soon because you're going to see a lot of people who are looking to switch jobs and become a whole lot better in terms of their job security. Prediction number six is that labor rights may be challenged. So this is another thing. The National Labor Relations Board is a board that was founded many, many decades ago to handle labor relations here in the United States. And over the last decade and a half, uh, we've had a lot of activism on both sides of the aisle around how to handle labor rights, unionization, union dues, and all of those things. And so one of the things that was going on here was that the past presidential administration was supported by rank and file labor, but may see unfriendly policies that are given towards them. Um, we also see that other folks like Elon Musk here have also come under scrutiny for their labor practices as it relates to the companies that they own, including SpaceX and Tesla. And so, as labor rights potentially become loosened, it's important for you in your prediction, in my predictions, and in the trends that we see here, that you get to know your state labor laws. And so, if you know your state's labor laws, good. If you don't know what your rights are as a worker, it's important that you get to know now because they may be changing shortly, and you will need to know what to keep in mind in case you face something from like retaliation, in case you face a hostile workplace, and what all of that looks like. And recruiting for the Department of Government Efficiency on this previous slide is beginning. So click on Aline's post here in the comments and see if you qualify for a job. Prediction number seven is that immigration is going to shift in the market. So undocumented workers, visa workers are going to face some interesting challenge come January 20th, 2025. Everything from who qualifies to work on what, to accusations of jobs being stolen, to jobs that people may or may not necessarily want to work, to advanced work visas and immigration reform are all up for discussion. And they may result in higher inflation, or they may result in higher wages or worker shortages, depending on where they are. So, for example, we may see a lot fewer workers in farm work, which leads to a higher rise in produce. On the other hand, we also might see more workers being considered for jobs that H-1B visa holders have taken. And so that remains to be seen, but I do think that we're going to see some change on the market here. For those I think who are on permanent green cards, I think you will be okay. It's tough to say though, because things can literally change any single day. Prediction number eight that I have here, and this is prediction 8 of 9, is that strategic roles are going to take precedence. And this is in combination with artificial intelligence becoming big. And this is also coming into also in alignment with a lot of jobs leaving the San Francisco Bay Area and expensive metropolitan areas. One of the conversations that I've had this year with people is really that the state of the market is not being very favorable to those who have skills that are repeatable, skills that are somewhat creative, and skills that can be had by somebody who lives abroad. So if you're here today and you're a data analyst, you're a graphic designer, you're a UX designer, you're a writer, um, this should be your warning to look at potential career transitions or leveling your skills in 2025. The arrival of AI means that anything that you can do today can be done by artificial intelligence much faster, though not at that high level of quality, but to be given to somebody to make it a little bit higher quality at a much cheaper rate. If somebody, for example, is able to write blog posts and can do so with ChatGPT with a little bit of editing and management from a higher level individual, it's going to be a lot cheaper than hiring a content marketer. And so, what does that mean at the end of the day? What that means at the end of the day is that we need to all become strategic in our careers. Strategic roles mean that you're not only thinking about a job from a project standpoint, but you're thinking about a long-term solution, right? And that's why software engineers are a dying breed. That's why data analysts are going to be going away. And so, for example, if you're a UX designer today or you're a graphic designer, the strategic way to think about your career is how you become somebody who looks at a creative process and applies that creative process to your job. If you're a writer today, you are no doubt getting killed by ChatGPT, but what's important for you to learn is how to become a content strategist so that not only can you create content, but you can understand how all of that content fits within the context of an entire company's content marketing strategy and sales strategy, and so on. If you're a software engineer, you have to think like a product manager and look beyond that as well. And so it's important that you look into 2025 with a position of growth and with a position of thinking as if you were a mini CEO, CMO, CTO, CIO, CFO, and so forth. And finally, we hit our final prediction here is that the search for the unicorn intensifies. As we head into year 3 of these tech struggles, companies are going to be seeking more unicorns over general fits. I heard from a friend yesterday who had to do a homework project for their interview. And they had mentioned to me that they had done a pretty decent job of it based on the feedback that they had gotten from other peers within the industry, but they were still not chosen because they did not have the requisite industry experience. Companies are going to want to hit the bullseye when it comes to their candidates here in the next coming year. Unfortunately, it means that if you are somebody who works today in cloud computing, but you want to go work in education technology, it may not necessarily be fully something that you can transition in because they're looking for, because the moment that somebody with direct education technology experience comes in, it's going to be difficult. So, when it comes to looking for a job in 2025, I encourage you to look for companies that you have direct experience within, because that is where you're going to be strongest and have the highest chance of being a unicorn. By the way, for those of you who are looking at this webinar right now and chatting in the webinar chat, please type your post to everyone versus host and panelists. If it's just host and panelists that you're typing to on the drop-down menu, then I am the only one who can see it and we won't be able to continue the conversation, just so everybody knows. So I know that Rosie, you have a question, and Jill, you have a question as well. I encourage you to retype that to everyone. So what does this all mean about the job market and how does this change everything? I know we're here 47 minutes past the hour, and we're finally probably getting to the point where why everybody joined us here in the first place. And I'm glad that we finally got here. So understanding what's ahead is going to be incredibly important given these trends and where this job market has been and where this job market is going. Some of these are things that you might already know. Some of these things may not be what you know. And it's important to give yourself grace along the entire way because it is a super tough job market and it does nobody or yourself any good to be hard on yourself when everybody else is going to be hard on you. Number one is that it's still the toughest job market since 2008. And the bad news is that it may get harder. Competition is fiercer than ever across all functions, and companies are looking for their unicorns. Some industries are going to be better than others, such as AI, government, and healthcare. And it's important to look for opportunities in unlikely places. I encourage you to come to places like here to network with each other, share your LinkedIn profiles, tell everyone that you found them here, and have those conversations and see where things are going. Go to networking events. It's also the holiday season for many of you. I know many of you Australians are probably going to spend your holidays on the beach, while the rest of us are hunkered down here in the Northern Hemisphere while it snows and rains outside. Those are all opportunities for you to have conversations and not necessarily pitch yourself for a job, but rather to meet people that you can have conversations, gain insights, and maybe even take that insight into something of a meeting or an interview along the way. Interest rates are also coming down. So And so that's good news, but also subsequent hiring maybe another 6 to 9 months out. Um, yes, recording and slides of the session will be available, and we'll be sending those to you after the webinar is complete. So what are the steps that you have to take along the way? So we just went through the trends. Now we're going to talk about the steps. And step number one is to understand that the strategies have changed as they relate to your job search. Industry trends do matter as you look at the state of the market. We are not selling horse and buggy whips anymore. We are in an era of AI, smaller government, leaner companies, startups, and so forth. And so as you look at that, you have to understand where your strengths are and where you fit. Being first to a job listing is always going to play to your advantage. Networking, as we just mentioned, whether you're on a beach or inside by the crackling fire this holiday season, is going to be more important than just blindly applying to jobs and hoping that somebody hears back from you. And it's important to also acknowledge the struggle and know that economic cycles are called cycles for a reason because you cannot have the down without having the up, and you cannot have the up without having the down. Um, Had a question about robotics and hardware. You're a software engineer and interested in those. That's an interesting area. I think hardware remains an area where you're going to see some growth because they can't necessarily be automated, but the software can. But in robotics is interesting because you are now having robots that can fold your clothes and do all of those kinds of things. So we shall see. And, we wonder how tariffs would impact hardware too. So those are all questions that we want to answer. As a part of networking, it's important to filter what you want. So all of you know how to use LinkedIn. Focus on your network, look for opportunities to be introduced. Use those first and second degree connections and focus on those commonalities, especially during this holiday season when you have mutual friends, alumni, common interest in sports, a common interest in movies. All of those things help create that level of relatability that make you more liked and also make you more interesting to those who may want to help you. Step number two is that no matter what market we're ever in, it is important to invest in yourself. We all have some kind of imposter syndrome to navigate. We're all wondering whether we're any good at any of this, and it's important to just get it done and start doing it. And invest in your education, invest in projects, get that $20 a month subscription to ChatGPT if you can swing it, and view yourself as that startup ready to launch and that somebody who can be really effective in whichever company that you can go to. I also encourage you to network in the right communities, whether it's Albert's List, something specific to your career. It's more important than ever that you put yourself in these different communities because these communities are going to offer you that chance and that opportunity to meet people that are directly honed in on what it is that you do. Step number three is to build your personal brand. So the first thing I want you to come out with, if you don't come out with anything else, is that it's not who you know or what you know. It is who knows you. And if nobody knows that you're looking for a job, or that nobody knows that you're a great software engineer, or that nobody knows that you're great at marketing, there ain't no way at all that anyone's going to hire you either. So it's a chance for you to build credibility and build recognition through your thoughts, through your actions and what you do, in front of the audience that can possibly hire you. And also, again, building your personal brand in front of networks that is going to help you out. And while you build your personal brand, it's important to not take a great resignation mindset into a return to office world. A lot of companies are bringing their workers back into the office for better or for worse. And it's important to know that while you may want a job that is remote, you might not get that job that is remote because a lot of companies are now knowing that they are an employer, it's an employer's market, and that they have a lot of leverage. Step number four is to go on offense with your search. I think it's important for everyone to know that there's no one coming to save you, but there are people like myself and others in this job search world who are coming to help you. But it is up to you to let us know that you are the one on offense. Um, I read so many articles every single month on whether it's okay to turn on your open to work settings or have your open to work banner on your LinkedIn. And my answer is undoubtedly yes. If you're looking for a job, you need to show that you want that job. Closed mouths do not get fed. You want to use the job search sites that best fit you. You want to understand that opportunities can come from unlikely places where you may not necessarily know. And I'm showing slide 3 again for the folks in the audience. And you know, in addition to that, you want to find an accountability partner. There are 130 of you on this webinar today. So, theoretically, if some of you added each other and said that you were all in the webinar together and you started a chat group and you held each other accountable, then you know what? You're building a community to do just that. And that's what exactly we do on Albert's List on a daily basis. We have accountability groups, we have boot camps, and we have some boot camp groups that got together earlier this year that still very much talk to each other as the year goes on. One of these was a resume workshop that we started in June. And 6 months later, they still meet every other week to go through their resumes, to go through their resumes, to talk about their job search and provide support for each other. And that's really what I want for all of you at the end of the day is to find your support because your job search can be a very isolating experience. Sitting alone at home, staring into a computer, staring into your screen for 5 hours a day without talking to anyone or getting any feedback is not the way to go. All right, we have a couple questions here. So what are the outlook on hiring trends for 2025? Contract versus direct hire, salary offers and negotiation, remote versus hybrid versus in office. So I would say for remote versus hybrid versus in office, I think it's going to be hybrid moving towards in office. For salary offers and negotiations, I think we're going to see much lower salaries because companies can afford to do it and they know that they have that level of leverage. And then for contract versus direct hire, I think in technology, you're going to see a lot of contract. Um, and I think as the government transitions towards wherever it's going next, you're going to probably see a lot of contract as well. So I would say my gut feeling says fewer direct hires. So yeah, I'm going to go back to slide number 3 on building your personal brand. And then I'm going to answer some other questions that are coming through here. What is the job for healthcare for data analyst? I would say that healthcare continues to be hot because there continues to be growth there. I would say that if you're looking for a healthcare job, on the other hand, it's probably in the registered nurse area and the caretaking area that's most important, as data analysis can be somewhat automated depending on what kind of hospital or healthcare system that you're a part of. What's the recommended strategies to approach multiple postings for the same position as competition seems to be increasing among staffing agencies? My recommended strategy there is to find the recruiter that you like the most and work with them exclusively. Because not a lot of some of these companies are going to ghost you, some of these companies are going to treat you very well, and you're the one that gets to pick. Find the one with the highest rate and go from there. Let's see. I've heard from some people that AI will be more of a tool to assist UX designers rather than being replaced, but it's possible it could reduce the number of jobs for designers. Any thoughts? Yeah, I absolutely agree. The purpose of business is to stay in business, and the purpose of business to make a profit and do it at a cost that is cheapest to the business because profit margins and shareholder equity matters a lot. And so when you consider that, if you can use AI to reduce your design team from 5 people to 3 people and save on 2 designers, then you do that because it means that your shareholders benefit at the end of the day and that you don't have as much expenses because people are the biggest expense when it comes to those who are employed. What area of government will be seeing the maximum job cuts with Doge? That is hard to say. But I think that there will definitely be a lot of bias towards a lot of the agencies that you've heard in the news so far, and that would include everyone from the Department of Education to possibly the reforming of healthcare. I know the Environmental Protection Agency might be moved out of Washington, D.C. because they want it to have less power, and so forth. To understand, I heard you right. You stated data analysts will be automated. How about business analysts or project managers? Yeah, those, if your tasks are repeatable and somebody can do them for cheaper abroad, then the odds that they might get replaced are certainly up there. And I think that there will be jobs still in those areas, but you're going to see fewer jobs. Again, based on what I said earlier, it is important to approach your job search with a level of strategic care versus that of task-based work, because task-based work can be outsourced to much cheaper people who are just as talented but are willing to work for far fewer dollars. All right. So, Tangerine Search is fantastic, by the way, for everybody who's here in the chat. April Starlight is an Albert's List recruiter. She is somebody who comes and speaks at our events, and I trust her a ton. So reach out and tell her that Albert from Albert's List sent you. Thoughts on freelance projects to fill career gaps? The answer to that is yes. Anything that you can do to fill in that gap is going to be incredibly important. So given the increased activity from job seekers on LinkedIn, what is the recommended approach to differentiate oneself in reaching out to connections via LinkedIn at target companies? Um, be a first degree connection, know that person, be interested in building a relationship, have relevant experience and skills that you can speak to, and position yourself as the person based on those skills that you have built. All right, so we're going to keep going here because we do have what look to be another 25, 26 slides left. So step number 5 is to tell the story that you want heard. So this comes down to you being able to write your resume, the story that you want to speak to in your interview, and the practice that you want to do here so that you can be the best that you can be in the interview process and in the job search process. Um, and we'll talk about these a little bit in the next few slides. So, for example, when it comes to your resume, this is my resume, for example, it's important to tell your story by going in order. You want to start by introducing yourself, share the highlights of your career, explain the skills that got you there, go into detail, and then share your education and your certifications at the bottom. This is my resume. This is how I've done it. If you would like a copy of this resume, on my last job search, it got me 6 offers in 2022. So I'm happy to send this to you so that you can adapt it for yourself. Step number 6 is to interview with confidence. And one thing that I've always found when it comes to job searching is that the job interview reveals everything and anything that you need to know about how anybody is doing in their interview. And the reason why people don't do good at interviews is because they don't know how to play the game. The interview is 2 to 3 things. Is 2 to 3 things. Number one, it's understanding what's at stake. Number two, it's knowing where you create risk as well as where you create excitement. And number three, it's understanding what stories that you need to tell so that you can be the person that they really want to hire based upon your special sauce. Please email me and I can send that resume over. And so what's at stake? And so what's at stake is several things when it comes to your job search. It's not only what it is that you want out of that job, but it's also what's at stake for the industry, the company, your colleagues, your boss, and your customers. I do hop into this in depth in one of my presentations, but basically what it means at the end of the day is you need to understand what is important to those that are looking to hire you so that you can tell the story that is most relevant to you, that reduces your risk, that increase their interest. Step 5 is tell the story that you want heard. And step 6 is interview with confidence. So would product manager jobs be replaced or outsourced? The answer to that question is no, because, and here's my email for my resume, so you can send it. Um, so the answer to that is no, because product manager jobs tend to be very strategic. You have to tie together the entire technical organization from R&D to engineering to software engineering to marketing to customer success. And so that's not necessarily a job that somebody abroad can do or do it repeatedly. Um, so I don't think it'll be automated. Must one work with recruiters or staffing agencies these days? It seems responding to job postings directly on companies' websites or directly through LinkedIn is not effective job search strategy anymore. Can you share some thoughts on this? So, recruiters and staffing firms are easier to work with these days because they offer a direct connection to the job. A lot of companies are posting fake jobs these days on their websites because they want to give the impression that they continue to recruit and that they are able to um, recruit and that they seem to be busy and growing, even when they're not. And so you may not necessarily trust those job listings, although you may very well try. And my recommendation is that the more people and humans that you have in the loop, the better it's going to be. Here are the type of interview questions that you're going to hit when you come into the interview process these days. And so many of these questions are questions that you've seen before in your life. There are fact-based questions, personality-based questions that try to understand who you are and what it is that you want to do with your career. There are situational questions where they want to know whether the past can translate into the future and whether you'll do something again or whether you will not do something again. There are hypothetical questions, such as understanding what it is that you would do if you got the job. And then there are questions that you ask of other people. And so I'm going to leave this slide up here as I answer this next question so you can take a screenshot or take a photo. But dev jobs will be replaced as it can be outsourced abroad and also be repetitive. Potentially. It depends on the development strategy. If generative AI is something that these companies want to use, then maybe. Otherwise, not necessarily. It depends on how complex the development process is. Step number 7 is to turn your job hunting into a habit. I really can't emphasize this one enough, and this is actually probably, in my mind, the first step that should be in there because I do come across a lot of job seekers who say that they want a job, but they're not willing to work hard for it, or they're just not as motivated as one may think. A job search has to be a daily, relentless task that you do continuously. Because otherwise, if you don't do that, you're going to find yourself in a tough situation. So, what does this mean? It means that you keep searching until you sign an offer. It means that you build a calendar every single day where you job search and you fill that calendar with as many job opportunities as you possibly can. And it's also okay to take a job that may be a contract job because it serves as a bridge into the next opportunity that you have. And then step number 8 is to help others. Look, I understand it's a tough job market out there. It is not easy, but it's also important to have a community. After running Albert's List for almost 11 years now, it has dawned on me that, when you do this together with other people, when you bring what we have here is 122 people in this room tonight here to talk about the job search, you feel a whole lot better because you have other people who are going through what you are going through. And I hope all of you are sharing your LinkedIn and meeting each other and talking to each other and saying hello and maybe even getting on the phone to network. Even for those of you who are here in the Bay Area, say hello to your friends in Australia. Say hello to your friends in the UK, in Europe, in Canada. We're all going through the same thing, even though maybe the context is different and the markets are different. So you definitely want to be in a place where you can help others, boost their posts, share listings that aren't a fit for you, and just and share Albert's List because Albert's List, we are a business, but we also have a lot of free opportunities as well that people can take advantage of to really find support no matter where you are in your job search. And then step number 9 is to understand that it's hard. It's not a friendly economy for many. Competition is fierce. And if you got to take a break, take that break. And that you got to know that it's eventually going to improve. I can't tell you if it's going to be in the next 6 months or in the next 2 years, but golly, I do hope that it improves because it really saddens me to see so many people who are on the market looking and struggling and extremely smart whips. So, I know it's hard and you have every right to vent and we have to keep going. Step number 10 is to borrow AI for help. Free tools like Claude and ChatGPT can help support your efforts. You have to revise and you have to act as if, ask AI to act as if so that it can give you the best output possible. And so the next few slides, I have a couple of AI tools that you can definitely consider along the way. I presume that many of you have already used some of these in the whole entire process. These first two are ChatGPT and Claude, which can do everything from update and edit your resume, to copy edit your cover letters, to help you build a personal brand and strategize. Um, and by the way, we do have AI specific job search sessions. So I do want you to let you know that to watch our calendar as we add those in. We also have, for those who don't want to apply to jobs on their own, things like Lazy Apply, which will literally charge you $250 one time to apply to as many jobs as they possibly can. And that's all about quantity and less about quality. There's also Teal, which is a job application tracker that allows you to keep track of all your applications, build your resume with AI, and match with the right keywords. Um, Good question. Is there any value in cover letters anymore? The answer is mostly no. And the only place where cover letters are relevant is when you are going from one industry to a very distinctly different industry, or if you are not in tech and in some place like a nonprofit or higher education, where you need to not only tell a story about what you've done, but also expand on that story with specific examples and so forth. Interviewing in AI. So what you can do here is you can use Google Interview Warmup, ChatGPT, or you can use the STAR Method Coach to also help you become better at AI or better at interviewing with AI. But because AI cannot discern facial expressions or body language, you should also still practice your mock interviewing with real people. I can send the deck. Just send me an email and I will send it over to you. And I may just also put this on slide share as well. So, what to do once you've been hired? Um, for those of us who do get to the place where we're hired, and this will be many of you here in the new year, a new job is going to search as a new beginning. Though unfortunately, it's also not the time to rest. It's time to keep going. It's time to live up to your potential. A new job means new goals. So, whichever skills you learn, communication skills, earning increased duties, or developing leadership, it's all part of the journey to becoming that professional that you want to be. And things to keep in mind is that as we've learned from 2020 to 2022, is that a job is rarely forever. So keep networking and building your brand and write down your accomplishments as you get them in your job and stay in touch with old recruiters and those whom you've connected with. So, how can you take action? We're going to promote a few things tonight that are coming up on Albert's list and things that are going to be of interest to you as you go through this part of the job search. And I want everyone to just understand that these are available to you, some at a charge, some at no charge. I want you to DIY your job search with the Job Seeker Survival Kit. It is a collection of 55 hours worth of videos valued at $2,000 across 49 videos that cover everything from finding your next job, discovering what you want, what to do once you get hired, how to use AI in your job search, and sample mock interviews. We have 18 mock interviews in here that include everything from marketing to administrative to software engineering and product management. And so this kit I usually sell for, I think, $250 at that link is available for $20 today through the holiday season and into New Year's Eve. I want to give you all this content because if you are looking and we don't have any live boot camps right now, this helps you get to that next level so that you can get what you need. We also have office hours. So office hours are every other week and what this is, it's $20 a year over Zoom, where you get to talk to yours truly about any career topic that you have on your mind. And so I come in, it's every other Wednesday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. And it's an opportunity for you to learn from us so that you can get the help that you need on an ad hoc basis. Yep. I'm going to copy that link here. And there you go. So if you're interested in both of those, we'd love to have it. If you're interested in doing your own mock interview, we would love to have you as well. We've done 115 mock interviews, and our mock interviews can be technical or they can be non-technical. Our non-technical interview is with a Fortune 500 recruiter who works at Google, and our technical interview is led by a senior software engineer who formerly worked at DoorDash, IBM, and now works at a cryptocurrency startup. It's a chance to practice before the real thing, and if you're interested in practicing this, I encourage you to email your resume and your job description to albert@ajobslist.com. I've included the email up there in the chat, and I'll put it out here as well so that you can sign up for it. I also want you to be informed of the job market. So there are some of you here who attend our monthly job search and inflation updates. This is a webinar that we hold on a monthly basis where we give you an overview of the job market from an economics professor who has a PhD, Dr. Riley White of the University of New Mexico. We talk about the state of the job market. We talk about the trends. We talk about where things are going into the future, and we answer your questions. No question is out of bounds. No question is stupid. We've answered everything from why inflation happens to where the future of the market will be to how to navigate a market like this to why credit card debt is so high and everything in between. So I encourage you to come to that and check that out so that you can see what it is that we do on a monthly basis. We don't sell anything on these webinars, and it's pretty much all informational. And it's been told that we're one of the most fun economics webinars that you can ever attend, and that we make economics fun in the first place. Question: would project and program manager roles go away because it's kind of repetitive? I would say that the cross-functional collaboration makes it less automatable, but you may have fewer program managers and project managers because a lot of people abroad can take care of it. So, yeah. Yes, and Melanie comes to our webinar every month, and we have a lot of fun with her questions and everyone else's questions. So it's fantastic. Scott asks, on a LinkedIn profile, do you recommend having job titles or job titles plus bullet point descriptions? Plus bullet point descriptions all the way. Those are absolutely necessary. And then the next thing I want to invite you all to is to learn about our Winter 2025 Job Seeker Bootcamp, which begins on January 22nd, or rather our teaser webinars are January 22nd and 29th, with the actual program beginning on February 3rd. And so what this is, it's our annual twice yearly boot camp that goes 8 weeks long, where we talk about how it is that you can recession proof your job search with skills from resume writing to networking to really the accountability that we provide. It's somewhat similar to this webinar, but also different in the sense that are providing we are providing actual live support through Zoom that will allow you to learn more. So if you want to sign up for that, we have spaces available right now and would be lovely to have you. And so attend those teaser webinars before you buy the real thing. And finally, I want to invite you to stay in touch. I think I've given you my LinkedIn already. I will go ahead and drop it again here for everybody's consumption. And I invite you to join Albert's List. Albert's List is as we said, a 50,000 member Facebook group located in the San Francisco Bay Area, but we also do a lot of networking across everywhere. And we have job postings every day, advice questions, introductions, and so forth, with an opportunity to connect with other job seekers who are similarly in your place. And so with that, I want to thank everybody for coming to today's webinar. I appreciate the time that you've taken to be here. Are there any other questions from folks who are here today who want to who have any questions about the job search and so forth and want to and have any questions. I'll take them now. All right. Well, um, if nothing else, I want to thank all of you. We'll be running this webinar again on January 6th. So please come back then and we'll run this again with the similar questions and similar thoughts and likely some updated insights over the holiday season. Will there be a recording? Yes, there will be a recording. It will be uploaded to YouTube and then it'll be shared with you. What design roles would be considered safe from AI? I think if you are a director or a strategist, then you're going to be in a much better place. If you're a creative director, if you're a creative manager, um, yes, then you're going to be in a good place there. The mock interviews are free. We do offer an interviewing boot camp twice a year as well, but the mock interviews and the practice themselves are free. So please email me with your resume and your resume and a job description, and then we'll find a time that works for everybody. So no more generalists, only specialists. Not necessarily. I think that a generalist, I think very, very, very specific specialists are going to be good, but strategists are going to come into view. We're moving from from whatever we were before to a world where generalists and strategists are going to work with a smaller number of specialists in order to get the work that needs to be done completed. Yeah. What is my email address? I'm giving you my email address again here. Yep. Excellent. And once again, we are doing our monthly economics and job search webinar on Monday. Everyone and anyone is welcome to come and join us. So please feel free to come and do that and come with your questions. We take all sorts of questions. Trying to be a data scientist from a data engineer, but it's taking time. It is a dumb move. Somebody at the very end, because AI thrives off of data, needs to be the person that manages that data. So I don't necessarily think that it's a dumb move, but you definitely need to get in the market quicker so you can get the experience that you need. Yeah, cool. So if there are no other further questions, once again, thank you all for your time. Thank you all for your diligence in joining us for this webinar today. Please join Albert's List. Please join our future webinars here that are coming up. We look forward to having you here in the new year. We look forward to supporting your job search, and we look forward to having you in 2025 as we navigate these interesting paths together as move forward. So without further ado, thank you all so much, everybody. We'll chat with you soon and have a beautiful, beautiful holiday season. We'll see you after the break. Goodbye.